Hello, in this chapter we're going to look at the undo and redo commands. If you'd like to follow along, I'm going to go ahead and go into the perspective window and we're just going to draw some shapes. So I'm going to first select the rectangle tool, drag out and draw a rectangular shape. And then I'll choose my circle command. And with my end snap active, I'm going to snap to this endpoint and just drag a circle. Doesn't matter what size, just something like that will be just fine. I'm going to drag a box from right to left to select both objects. And I'm going to drag them over here, and I'm going to tap the Alt key to make a copy. You see the plus sign show up, and then I'll release my mouse. So now we have two versions of the same two curves. Let's go ahead and select the first two curves that we drew, and we're going to apply a trim command to them. And I'm just going to trim away this portion, and then I'll join them together. And then we'll actually just drag this down just a little bit. Now I'll drag a box around these, and I'll also apply the trim command here, and I'll trim away those two pieces and then join those together. Like most programs, Rhino uses the standard commands of Control-Z to undo and Control-Y to redo. But there's also some other undo and redo commands that we're going to look at. So you'll find those all under here. So we'll hold this down and pull it out, and these are the undo commands. So this icon is left click to undo, right click to redo. So left click and then right click. Now what's nice is there's also undo multiple, and you may find there's plenty of times we only need to do a whole bunch of undos at one time. And for that you can just click this, and then you can select from the list of what you want to undo and how far you'd like to go back. So if we want to take this all the way back to where we just had our original shape, I can highlight all of those and then hit OK. So that's undone all of the stuff I did to the duplicate over here. It's undone the trimming, and it's undone the move that we did to this object. You can also redo multiple by right-clicking the same thing and then selecting how far you'd like to go. So I'll click that, and now we've gone all the way back at one shot, instead of having to do a whole lot of Control-Z, Control-Z, and then a bunch of Control-Y, Control-Ys. Now there's even more power built into this as well. Let's say I wanted to undo everything I had done to this, but keep this object here. Well, one way to do that would be just to copy this as it is and do a whole bunch of undos to get this back. But we actually have this icon here, and that's undo selected. So if we look at the undo multiple, we have this long list of items. If I select just this object and click on the undo selected, it'll show me the undos that are available for just this item here. So I can undo the trim and the join and get that back to the original shape. So we haven't affected this at all. We've only undone for this one. So now I could go ahead and maybe do a different set of trims for this one and then a different join. So that really gives you quite a bit of power. And that doesn't only work for the curves. Let's zoom out just a little bit, and we'll select both of those and delete them. And let's draw some poly surfaces. So we'll start with the box command. I'll type 0, then I'm going to type 20, 20, 20, and hit enter. And let's go ahead and shade this. And now I'm going to draw the sphere command. And I'll snap to this endpoint here, and let's make that a radius of 10. Now we have this sphere shape. I'll select these, and I'll drag them over holding down my Shift key. Tap my Alt key. When I see the plus sign, I'll let go. So now I have two objects, both the same, and we'll go ahead and select this, and we'll do a Boolean difference using this as the cutting object. And let's do the same with this one. I'll apply the command. So now we have two boxes with a spherical shape cut out of the corners. So let's go ahead and put a fillet edge on this. And I'm going to put a fillet edge of 2 on this one. And I'll drag a box to select those parts, and then just click these 3 end pieces. Apply that command, and let's go ahead and do the same thing to this one. Hit enter. Now I'm going to do a set all here, and I'm going to change this to 3. So now we're going to put a radius of 3 on this. So as you see, it's a subtle difference, but there is a difference between the radiuses on these two objects. And look at these in rendered mode. And you can see it shows up a little better. There's a much softer radius here. So let's say I really like how this looks and I want to change this one. Well, now with the undo selected, I'm able to do that. I can choose that, unclick this, make sure fillet edge is highlighted, and I can undo the fillet edge that we applied to that object without affecting this one. And I can come back, do another fillet edge. Remember, if you accidentally select a part, you can control click on it to deselect it. I'll add these parts to the mix. And now we've changed this radius to a 3mm radius. Now there's one other icon available here, and that's this one here, and that's clear undo. So if we take a look at all of the undos we have, and let's bring this down. Depending on your settings, this can be a much longer list than this. And while this is running, it's eating up memory on your computer. It doesn't eat a ton of memory typically, but let's say you've been copying a lot of complex assemblies, then Rhino is holding all that data in memory. And if you've been pasting and cutting and pasting and so on, then that's all going to be maintained and held in memory here to be able to undo that. So if you are running into memory issues, you can just click this icon here, and that's going to undo the undo and redo list that Rhino is holding in memory. And if I click this now, you'll see there's nothing to undo, as it tells you in the command line. So now we've cleared out that memory, and now that memory is available to us again. So that sort of takes care of all the icons here. There's one other thing I do want to show you. If we go to File, Properties, and we'll click on the General area under Rhino Options. And here is the undo. So this is the minimum number of undos that Rhino is going to hold in memory, and this is how much memory it's going to use. Now, I always like to crank this up just a little bit. I'll maybe make this 20 or so, just for the simple fact that I always want to make sure that Rhino's got plenty of undos that it saves. I have run into situations where that's set to 1, where that's all I get is 1 undo, and I really wanted to go back 3 or 4 steps, and they weren't there because they weren't held in memory. And then I always go ahead and turn this up just a little bit. I have plenty of RAM on my computer, so I really don't mind running this a little bit higher, and I'll go ahead and turn that up to 256 meg. If you're having some RAM issues or you're not sure about it, then you can go ahead and leave that at 16, and for the most part, you'll be fine with that set that way. As I said, I have a lot of extra RAM running in my computer, and I want to make sure that I don't have any issues, so I just crank that up just a little bit. Then we can go ahead and click OK. So I'm always going to have a lot more memory available to me and a lot more undos available in Rhino. And that concludes our look at the undo and redo commands.